let's take a look at isovaleric character, a cheesy flavour found usually in hoppy beer. The isovaleric character originates from hops. In fact, it originates from the alpha acids in hops. Those alpha acids, the compounds which ultimately are responsible for the bitterness in beer, can break down during storage of hops or hop products, releasing isovaleric acid. When we use the hops in the brewhouse, that isovaleric acid is dissolved in the wort. We won't smell the cheesy character in the wort itself because the pH value of the wort is too high. But as the yeast ferments the wort and increases the acidity, and therefore lowers the pH value, the isovaleric character becomes more prominent. This flavour used to be very common in craft beer because the hops used were not so fresh, they perhaps had been badly stored, and then the hopping rates were high to make traditional types of ale with a high bitterness level and therefore a high hopping rate. Today's craft beer has much lower levels of isovaleric character. The hops are fresher, they're of better quality. But it's still a flavour you have to take great care to control, especially in highly hopped beers. So the source of this flavour is hops, and it's a hop quality marker. Good quality hops give you low levels of isovaleric character, and badly stored hops give you higher levels of this character. The difference in concentration? Well, beers with low or non-detectable isovaleric acid levels, we're looking at only 1 or 2 milligrams per litre. Beers with a prominent isovaleric or cheesy character, we're looking at 3, 4 or 5 milligrams per litre. So the best way to detect and identify isovaleric in beer is by covering the glass with your hand, swirl it around to concentrate the flavour in the headspace above the beer, and take a 2-second sniff. You can also do the retronasal technique. That's where you hold your nose, breathe in, take the sample into your mouth, and then breathe down through your nose. You're looking for a flavour that reminds you of the smell of a hop store. The hop store, of course, tends to have isovaleric acid in the environment. It may also remind you of some types of cheese, for example, the rind on Parmesan cheese, or perhaps an old piece of cheddar. Both of those cheeses have quite high levels of isovaleric character. So this is a flavour which is a tolerable flavour in some types of ale. Highly hopped ales always have a little bit of isovaleric character. The key is to make sure there's not too much. If the level is too high, it can either be from poor quality hops or it can be from microbiological contamination, particularly Brettanomyces. So the Brettanomyces yeast can impart a positive flavour when we're trying to barrel age a product, but a negative flavour if they're present as a contaminant, a microbiological contaminant. In both cases, they're producing a variety of flavours, including ethyl phenol, ethyl glycol, ethyl acetate, and acetic acid. But they also produce the isovaleric character, this cheesy character. Now, in a barrel-aged product, those flavours blend together and give us a degree of complexity to the beer. But in a lighter beer, such as an ale or a lager, it can be a negative, and it simply tastes as if we have a bad microbiological contamination problem. Now, the flavour which tasters most commonly confused with isovaleric is butyric. Butyric, of course, is caused by a hygiene problem in the brewhouse, where bacteria produce butyric acid. Isovaleric, of course, coming from the aging of hops, nothing at all to do with bacterial growth. The only way to tell whether we have isovaleric or butyric in the beer is to taste both samples and learn to differentiate them. Once you've done that, you'll be able to remember the smell and taste, and you won't confuse them. This is an important flavour character to become proficient in, because only by assessing your beers for the level of isovaleric acid and isovaleric character will you be able to know whether the hops you're using are of good enough quality to make consistent beer?